Let's just hope it's not this all the way down.
Table Mountain. I rode it so you don't have to. I guess if I was already camping on this side of Mount Adams and I was really jonesing for a moto descent and someone was around who wanted to shuttle me to the top without me having to do a retrieval, then yeah, I'd totally ride it again. But don't go out of your way for this one. I mean, there are fun parts. There are redeeming qualities. It's just not worth driving all the way from Portland or Seattle to do it. It's not really even worth driving from Hood River. Maybe Trout Lake. But I mean, if you're in Portland and you're going to drive for 2.5 hours to ride a trail, go to Seattle. Anyhow, to start, you'll want to navigate to Forest Service Road 9091, park here at the obvious bottom of the trail. Now, if you're shuttling, you'll drive up this road. If you're pedaling, you'll also pedal up this road. It's fairly straightforward climb of 1,700 feet over 4 miles, nothing you can't handle. If you want to skip to the fun part, you can take a left when you get to this intersection, which is clearly marked on Trail Forks. Be aware that that's another 1,200 feet of climbing going that way, but I mean, actually, that is what you should do. This intersection that goes to the left, that's what you want to do. If you're shuttling for this ride, you also definitely want to turn left here and go as far up that road as you can. But there's nothing worth riding above this point if you're on a mountain bike. Dirt bikes would be a different story, but more on that later. Shortly after this intersection is really the only decent view on this whole ride. That's one of the things that makes this ride kind of a non-event, boring and unmemorable experience. The best exposure on this ride is from the road, and here it is. Just one partially obscured view of Mount Adams from the road is all you'll get. Enjoy. When you get to this intersection, go right. As you near the top, the road gets really grown in. This is another reason you don't want to shuttle all the way to the top. Aside from the top half being dumb, you'll scratch your paint for no good reason. So if you're going to be this high up the road, just make sure you're on your bike.
I wouldn't want to shuttle this.
Very near the top, the road ends where a bridge was taken out. There's a trail that routes around it. Then you're back on old road bed. Then you'll arrive at this very poorly marked intersection. Don't follow the main road any further. Take a left up this other old road grade. This is now the trail. The name of this trail is the Boulder Trail, and it's really just there to connect you to the Boundary Trail, which will then connect you to Table Mountain. The only thing that makes this trail fun is that as trees have fallen over the years, the motos have routed around them, and that has added some relatively fun moto bermed S-curves. The moto sculpting is both a blessing and a curse throughout the rest of this ride. The blessing is that there are a lot of fun step downs and moto berms. The curse is that there are a lot of trenches, which means you'll be getting off the bike for nearly every punchy climb. By and by, the trail intersects with the Boundary Trail right here at this intersection. Go to the left. Now you're on the Boundary Trail. There is additional climbing on the Boundary Trail. Of course, there's additional climbing on the Boundary Trail. It's the Gifford Pinchot. There's always additional climbing. That said, the Boundary Trail is in much better shape than the Boulder Trail, so that's nice. I am not sure if it's just because it gets more attention, being the Boundary Trail and all, but aside from how badly it gets chewed up by the motos, it is doing pretty well. After a little under a mile on the Boundary Trail, you'll finally encounter the actual Table Mountain Trail. You'll have to poke around here a little bit, but the trail you want is the one off to your left, the one that heads south. Now, after all the climbing you've just done to get up here, it sure would be a blessed relief to just shred a long descent straight back to the car. Well, no such luck here, because you just had to come all the way to the top, and guess what? There's additional climbing. There's a little bit of initial downhill, just as a teaser, but there's eventually 2,500 feet of descending on this trail, and the road only climbed 1,700 feet, plus a few hundred more on Boulder and Boundary Trail. So you've still got to probably make up 300 or 400 feet of climbing before you get to the top of this thing.
So overall, so far, this section before the part you could shuttle to isn't worth it.
Listen to the man behind the camera. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Now, on a dirt bike with the brap brap, this section would be a buttload of fun, but making brapping noises with your mouth while pedaling your mountain bike through this is not fun.
Okay, I officially declare this section of the Table Mountain Trail boring.
I couldn't have said it better myself. If this section had territorial views, then maybe it would be a different story, but it doesn't, so it's just a boring trap.
So far, this has been underwhelming.
I mean, I did ride this like 3 days after I got Poison Oak and Oak Ridge, so maybe I wasn't fully aware why. Actually, I wasn't fully aware why my legs were itchy yet. So maybe that had something to do with my crabby attitude.
Oh, God.
But this whole section just undulates up and down and up and down, and stupid no reward for your troubles. It just sucks. And just when you think it's almost over and things are about to get going, it's not. It's never over.
This is like one of those movies where like they spend 70 minutes on exposition.
You'll keep getting excited when there's a little section of downhill, only to be bitterly disappointed when you slam right into another punchy uphill that's so trenched out that you almost have to walk the bike. When you've arrived at this trenched out section right here, your misery is almost over. It seems fitting that you'd have to push your bike up the last section of trail before you get to the summit, and this is the summit. Yeah, just drink in that amazing view. This is what you climb 2,500 feet for. So magical. And this is the first actual fun you'll have on the entire ride. The downhill does actually start here. And you know what you got for all the trouble of not just riding to the halfway point? 2 minutes of downhill before you get to the road crossing anyway. That's right. All of that trouble back there, that was for 2 minutes of downhill. That's what you got out of this. But there is something, it's not even remarkable. You know, that's the thing. Okay, back to this. This is not even a remarkable downhill. This is what you suffered for. All of that suffering in the top half is for this extremely unremarkable 2 minutes of dusty downhill. All right, but there is something you should know about this road if you're planning to shuttle to the halfway point.
You ain't getting your Camry up this road.
I should note that this road does 1,200 feet of climbing from the intersection with a 99-1 to get to this point, or I should remind you anyway that it does. This crossing is very near the summit. From the looks of things, this is not an easy shuttle, and it's a pretty steep push on the bike too. And from here, the fun begins. With a couple of minor exceptions, it's pure Moto DH awesomeness the rest of the way down. It is a little trenched out, but as we all know, Moto trenches only add to the fun on descents. There is a little pedaling in this first part. It's never quite over. Don't bring your DH bike on this or anything silly like that. All right, maybe I've been a little harsh on this trail. Now that I'm reviewing the video, I do remember really enjoying this descent. It's gnarly, it's raw, and it's pretty much just pure Gifford Pinchot magic. It's definitely not duffy, it's not loamy, it's sandy. It's motoed out sandy volcanic ash with some loam mixed in, kind of like everything around here. There are some sections in here that get pretty steep, bombed out, and technical, but fast at the same time. So I guess if you had someone to shuttle you, this would be a worthwhile addition to the festivities. It's the type of descent that makes you feel really, really skilled until you get to something challenging, and then you got to think about what you're doing suddenly. You'll use all your powers of prediction on this descent. It's very similar to the Wright Meadow or the Tongue Mountain descent. It has that same kind of just Gifford Pinchot moto trail flavor to it, because it's a moto trail in the Gifford Pinchot. Go figure. So for all that pain in the butt and cussing and complaining getting to the top, the descent still left me with a smile on my face, and to be honest, if I hadn't been by myself, I probably would have enjoyed this trail a lot more. So, 2 things. First of all, either ride or shuttle just to the halfway point, because the top section is totally pointless. And second, make sure you ride it with a friend. Gnar like this deserves to be shared.